Hey guys, welcome back to Aimless Moto. So now the paint's done and she's looking great and everything cosmetically is done on this bike. I think what we're going to do now is dive into why it's not charging. For some reason one of the legs on the stator is dead. I should be getting at least like 50 amps out of it. I'm getting 0 amps. So stay tuned. So what you have to do is you have to set your voltmeter to 200 M, or excuse me, just 200 on the ohm setting. And this is like a cheapo, like $10 deal from Walmart. So any voltmeter will work. And you have to check ground on each one to hot on each one. So we're going to start on this one here. And we're going to go ground to hot. Nothing. Ground to hot. Nothing. Alright, so let's put the ground on this one up here. Like that. We'll go ground to hot. Nothing. Ground to hot. 10 ohms of resistance. Okay? And we'll do this one down here. Ground to hot. Nothing. Ground to hot. I think I have a bad ground. There. Ground to hot. Yeah, something's... Oh, there we go. So that's kind of funny. So something's wrong here. Something's wrong inside, down here, inside the stator. So I'll show you how I bench tested the one that was on the other bike. Okay, so this is the stator that was in the blue motorcycle, or the slightly older, higher mileage motorcycle. But it was also the stator that was in the motorcycle with the battery, meaning, or excuse me, with the electric start. Which means that maybe this is completely different. Maybe this is a completely different stator. I didn't check part numbers, but it could be, or it could just be the one that's in there now is bad. So this is how we're going to bench test it. We're still going to do the same process where we're going to leave ohms on 200, and we're going to test each leg. So we're going to do the ground on the first one here. So we're going to do ground to top. So I did get a reading, but it's a little funky. Let me see if I can get this in there a little better. I really should be using alligator clips for this, but I don't have any. Ground to the top. 10, 11, 9. Okay. What's this one? 10, 11. Okay. Let's check the next one. You want between, 9 and 10 ohms of resistance on each of these. Whoop. So you just check ground on all of them, and hot to the other two that are open. 9, 10. 9, 10. It does jump around a little bit because if there's corrosion or anything, you're moving this around will change the value. But every single one of these pins will show between 9 and 10 jumped between each other. The next test you should do when testing a used piece of electronic equipment is a ground out. So I'm going to put this, I don't think there's anywhere I can put it where it'll stay. So I'm going to rest my finger against it here, but I'm going to leave ground on the coil magnet itself. And I'm going to check each one of these with the buzzer on to see if there is a circuit. Nope. So there's no circuit grounded out. So each leg, each of the 3 legs on this 3-phase stator reportedly is in good shape. The only other test that we could do is if we install it on the bike, get the bike running, and test each leg and see how many amps we're going to get. Now we can't do that with it out of the bike, but I did do it to the one that's on the bike with it running, and this third leg down here was getting 0 amps. I was getting 40 and 50 and 0. So there's obviously something wrong with this one because I'm getting no resistance on this one either on the bike. So we're going to swap this one in just because these 2 tests tell me there's physically nothing wrong with it. But that doesn't mean there isn't. We'll never know until we get it installed. So let's take you over to the bike and we'll start tearing that apart. All right, so as you can see, I've kind of prepped the area, getting ready to go here. Basically made a tinfoil funnel down into a container because I want to reuse the oil because it's good oil. So it's a clean container. This is just the clutch cover. I just wanted to cover it up to make sure I didn't drip anything on it or, you know, ding it with anything else. And then up here, all I have to do now is run this clip back through this wiring loom, take all that, you know, that plastic gator off. I'm probably going to leave that plastic gator off. It is kind of chintzy. So I'm going to take that off, clean up the harness, and remove all the zip ties and clips that hold it on. And then I'll be able to undo the clamp here and the couple of screws that hold the wires in place there. And then I can take this cover right off. Found something kind of interesting. My starter chain started to eat through my wires. See this little part right here? On the other bike, it has a chain tensioner to keep this down and out of the way, and a little spring to stop the chain from spinning when the motor is spinning. And I didn't install it on this bike because it was a kickstart only originally, and I completely negated to even look at that. And I had a suspicion that that's what caused it, some sort of physical malfunction. I got the new stator back in, and this is the apparatus that I needed. This is the chain guide, and this is the little tensioner that puts tension on the sprocket to prevent the sprocket from spinning in the wrong direction when the bike is idling and the engine's running. So I just tested it again with the ohm meter just to make sure everything was good. Still have 0.9 ohms resistance on all three legs, and we are good to go. So if you're going to do a conversion from a non-kick to from a non-electric start to an electric start, you need to swap over either just the whole side cover and do away with all the finaglery, screwing around, or you got to take these out and put them into your bike. I've got the bike back together, and as you can see, the battery is slowly losing juice because I have the light on. If I turn that off, we're back up to, I think it stabilizes around like 11.6, 11.7. So needless to say, this battery is flat or unable to turn the bike over. So I'm going to kickstart it, and then we're going to see what happens to the voltmeter as the bike runs. Idle, still going to drop. Let's give it a little throttle. It's 2,000 RPM. Coming up on 13 volts. That's a good sign. 3,000 volts, we're over 13. Okay, so that was up to 6,000 RPM. Battery's off. Let's see if it stabilizes above 12. I know the battery's flat, so the battery is going to stabilize lower than, I think, 11.6 or 11.7 where it was before. So at least I know now the battery's charging. Well, I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. After I got that bike running and now that it's actually charging itself, I decided I'm going to build an actual motorcycle workbench to drive the bike up on to work on. There's still a couple more issues with it. I'm just tired of working on the floor. I'm tired of working on one of those jacked up motorcycle stands, like those Harbor Freight deals. But, I mean, you could build this whole bench for under like 60 bucks. So this is how I made the clamp for the front of the bike bench that I built. So this leg of the clamp right here is stationary. It is mounted to this block and this block. This block is mounted to this block, which is acting as a stopper for the front wheel in here. When the bike rolls in, this is loose. So this has a spacer, and then this screwed through here only. So this whole thing can slide in and out. And I left a gap here so I could put this cheapo Pittsburgh Harbor Freight clamp in, and it simply just clamps the whole front wheel in place and it won't move. Right now I don't have ratchet straps on this bike, and I mean it's pretty stable. I wouldn't want to wiggle it around too much, but I mean it's really, really stable on there. So I'm really happy with the way this bench turned out. For some scrap wood, didn't turn out too bad. And what's nice is I have enough room on the bottom to store the ramp right there. So that's it. It looks like we got it hammered out. We got it running well. We got it charging. The last thing I have to do is fiddle with the carburetors a little bit. There is a problem with sort of like when you're going down the road and it's at a cruising speed, it's got a little bit of a hesitation. So I think it's the needles that's the wrong size, or they're at the wrong depth. So I'm gonna have to look into that. Next video is going to be the last video for this bike. This is pretty much done. We're gonna do kind of like a little wrap up, a little beginning to end, and you'll see kind of the process of a year of owning this bike, or I think it's actually only been 10 months since I've owned this bike, that I've gone from 2 rusty old KZ400s for 300 bucks and investing maybe 800 in parts and paint and time. I've got a really capable bike that should last me a long time. So again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you like what you see, please subscribe. If you want to start the series over, I believe we're on episode 7 or 8 now. Maybe, I don't know, we're getting up there. So if you want to start over, please click over here. You can click on the beginning of the playlist. And thank you again. Over 2,000 subscribers, can't believe it. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Keep it rubber side down.